So UFC 300 is not that far away now, and recently Dana White has just announced 3 fights for that card in Bo Nickel, Cody Brundage at middleweight, Aljamain Sterling moving up to featherweight to fight Calvin Kattar, and the last one, which is already on the screen here, is Yuri Prohaska, Alexander Rakic. So today I'm going to make my dream UFC 300 card. So I know this is meant to be a prelim fight, but I feel like Yuri Prohaska and Alexander Rakic should be bumped up to open the main card of UFC 300. And I think another fight that they could put on the prelims is Cody Garbrandt versus Davidson Figueiredo. That should be on the prelims. Move this fight up to the main card. This is a great matchup in my opinion. Yuri Prohaska is coming off that controversial loss to Alex Pereira, and Alexander Rakic, obviously, I think he blew his knee out in his last fight against Jan Blachowicz, who he was then meant to rematch at UFC 297, but Jan Blachowicz has had to pull out due to an injury. So yeah, I do believe Alexander Rakic is one of the more underrated guys at light heavyweight, but I do think Yuri Prohaska will finish Alexander Rakic when they get in there. I think his style is very unorthodox, and the amount of time that Alexander Rakic has spent out of the cage will not do him any good. And I just feel like Yuri Prohaska will find a way to get the finish with his weird style. Moving up. Now, this won't let me select a fighter because he's not in the middleweight division, technically. Now, in my last video, I said I'm on to see Khamzat Chimaev, Robert Whittaker, UFC 300 5-rounder. But then the UFC have now went and booked Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa for UFC 298. Missed opportunity there, real big missed opportunity. But Khamzat Chimaev needs to be on UFC 300 in my opinion. He is a massive draw, and as you can see, well, I'll get into it later on. But yeah, who I think Khamzat Chimaev should face is, I think, yeah, Jared Cannonier would be a realistic matchup. I think that would make sense in terms of rankings and getting him towards the belt. However, Kamaru Usman did call Khamzat Chimaev out recently to a rematch, and I did make a TikTok on this and I shitted on the idea of this rematch. I don't think it makes much sense. I just don't really think it makes much sense. But UFC 300 is going to be a mega card. Khamzat Chimaev is a massive name, and so is Kamaru Usman, and I honestly could see them doing that rematch because it was a close fight. Now, if they do make this fight, I feel like these 4 fights here, they have to be 5-rounders. So I feel like if you're going to do Khamzat Chimaev, I feel like if Khamzat fights Jared Cannonier, that can be a 3-rounder. But I feel like having the Usman rematch, it has to be a 5-rounder. And in my opinion, if they fight 5 rounds and Usman has a full camp, I feel like Usman beats him. I mean, in their first matchup, Khamzat Chimaev 10-8'd him in the first round. But then I feel like Kamaru Usman came back to at least get a draw in that matchup. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure about that, but I feel like that's a realistic fight that might happen, so that is why it's on my list. Moving up the card, we have got Justin Gaethje versus Select an Athlete. So again, it wouldn't let me pick an opponent, but for me, I feel like Charles Oliveira has to fight Islam Makhachev next, and I feel like they'd already booked that rematch. It fell through because Oliveira got cut, and they're going to remake that rematch in my opinion. Although Islam did say he wants to fight Gaethje, I just don't think that's going to happen because the UFC, I believe, are going to offer Gaethje a mega money fight with Max Holloway in the lightweight division for the BMF belt. Now yes, I spoke about the BMF belt before. I think it's shit, it's pointless, it's a tin can belt and we don't need it, but it will help sell this card considering there aren't many title fights on it. So having the BMF belt on it, I mean, there's a title on the line pretty much. So yeah, Max Holloway's got, I don't know why they didn't do Max Holloway Aljo at featherweight, but again, they've made Aljo versus Calvin Kattar, so this is why I'm thinking Gaethje versus Holloway is next. In terms of this matchup, again, it'll have to be a 5-rounder, obviously. We've seen Holloway move up to lightweight before, and we've seen what happened again against Dustin Poirier. Holloway doesn't do well with leg kicks, and Gaethje can crack. Now, with it being a 5-rounder, Holloway does pick up the pace. You know, he is kind of similar to what Colby Covington was in a volume fighter, volume punches, and he is extremely durable. But will he be able to beat Justin Gaethje? I'm not too sure. I feel like Holloway will have more success in the later stages of the fight if it does get there. I personally don't see Gaethje finishing him, if I'm being honest. I don't know, I did say when this fight was teased that I thought Holloway would win, but the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm leaning towards Gaethje. But yeah, I think that would be a perfect fight. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, BMF belt on the line, and then we go into the co-main event. Now this will be the only technically UFC title fight on this card. Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. Few reasons why I think this is probably going to happen. So number one, Leon's corner was on the MMA, Leon's coach, sorry, and he said the UFC had got in contact saying that he wants him to fight at UFC 300. So, I mean, here we go. Plus, Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards isn't a mega fight, so realistically, yes, it is for a belt, but you couldn't sell a pay-per-view with this fight, I don't believe. I don't even think you could take this fight to the UK, and it would be a big seller if I'm being honest. Both guys aren't particularly interesting on the mic. Now, Leon is one of my favourite fighters, and I do think Bilal is criminally underrated. But yeah, I just don't think that fight really sells. Plus, you'll see in the main event, Leon Edwards is managed by the same team as Conor McGregor, and Leon's going to get pay-per-view points for this because he is a champ, so I'm sure he will be. If this is the case, McGregor's going to main event wanting to be on this card, and I see it happening. It gets this title fight out of the way, and then it means in the summer we can have the big welterweight bout between Leon Edwards and Shavkat Rakhmonov. No offense to Bilal Muhammad, I think he's a great fighter, but I honestly don't see anybody at welterweight beating Leon Edwards. So yeah, I think this would be a good. It gives Leon a break. Bilal Muhammad obviously cut weight to be a backup fighter, so it gives him time to rehydrate, get back into where he would be before he starts cutting for a fight. Make this fight happen, get it out of the way. Co-main event of UFC 300, big fight. On to the main event now. People aren't going to like this because it's not a title fight, but McGregor is not going to come back and co-main anything. So realistically, he's always going to be the main event. I don't care what anybody says, what you think of him. This guy is without a doubt the biggest star the UFC have ever had, and probably will ever have, to be honest. And his return against Michael Chandler is a mega fight. Michael Chandler can't sell the fight, and Conor McGregor, obviously, like I said, is the biggest pay-per-view draw the UFC have. So having him as the main event makes total sense. Now, in terms of the matchup, I do think Conor McGregor will find the TKO in the second round. I don't think Michael Chandler has the skill sets to beat him, but lacks up here the fight IQ. So yeah, I feel like it's a massive sell, as well as having these two main event. Conor's obviously going to build the fight up massively, just his presence, and then you have basically a fight lined up if he does win in Justin Gaethje for that BMF belt, which is also a mega fight. I feel like UFC 300, if McGregor is fit and ready to go, it would be a shame not to have him on there. This is my pay-per-view fight card for UFC 300. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. But yeah, UFC 300, this is my main card, which I would like to see. Yuri Prochazka, Alexander Rakic, Khamzat Chimaev, either Jared Cannonier or Kamaru Usman. I feel like Usman is more realistic. And Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt, Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad for the welterweight strap, and Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler to headline the card. But as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. As you can see, my other social medias are linked on the top of the screen, and I will see you again in the next one.